today we are over here in 2021 Fall Advent series with Abdus with us. Abdus is a 2021 alumni of NITW, and uh, today we'll be asking his experience for his MS and IIMs in which he has applied to. So Abdus, hello, welcome over here, and please go ahead and
Yeah, hi.
introduce.
Thanks for having me here. My name is Abdus Samad Hashmy. I have just passed out of the mechanical engineering program at NITW Aachen, and I have applied to certain universities abroad and to a few IIMs in India. Um, when I'm looking at my MS aspects, I am currently looking at programs that have to do with mechanical engineering design and sustainable energy technology. So those were my two focus areas when I was looking at programs abroad. And in India, as we all know, IIMs have the MBA programs, and that was something I was looking at for a while.
So, Abdus, let's start with asking you the first question. And why did you want to pursue masters?
So my motivation behind pursuing a master's degree was very, very clear to me because I wanted to pursue either something in the mechanical engineering design field, or move into something that had much more to do with mechanical engineering than finance or something else that wasn't clearly related to my field. So there are two ways to do that. One is that you either get placed in a core company and you work your way through to much more core oriented role than say something like a cost engineer, or maybe just something to do with management in general. So that was one of the options that you always have, being like from one of the top colleges in the country. The other option is always to go ahead and understand more about what design is and then move into a field of your choice. So to do that, you have to either go for an MTech in India or go for MS abroad. So my clear motivation behind these applications was to just work in my core field.
Right. And what is your goal field?
So when I talk about what I want to do, as I mentioned, I want to work into the design, engineering design field. So that includes a lot of design analysis and FEM analysis, CFD analysis. A lot of that goes into design. So I've had previous experience with Volvo, Aisha commercial vehicles, and GE Aviation during my second and third year. So those were the experiences that kind of pushed me towards the field and helped me understand what I really want to do in mechanical engineering.
Right. So, like, suffice it to say that from your second, third year, you knew that you wanted to go for masters, or was it like a later on decision that no, nothing else is satisfying me?
No, it was more, yeah, it came on after my second internship with GE Aviation because a lot of people that I worked with, looked at their credentials, and most of them had a master's degree in either mechanical engineering design or to do with like whatever the, like for example, Volvo works with commercial vehicles. So my leader over there had a master's degree in vehicle design and automotive systems, and my leader at G Aviation had a master's in rotor design, which was what I was working with them at. So I looked at their credentials, and they also kind of motivated me to get in the field because they told me that yeah, this is something that we a lot of people want to do, but they don't know how to get to it. So they kind of motivated me to get into that zone to study well and try my hand at masters abroad.
Right. So when you started out for your designing and mechanical approach towards masters, how did you shortlist the colleges? I mean, there are a lot of them within India and
Yeah,
outside
God,
India. So yeah.
absolutely. So I remember like it took me almost what eight. I think it took me about 8 months to get to my final list of colleges that I wanted to apply to. I started in March last
Okay.
year, and that was when the lockdown began. So what I did first was I looked at random college websites, like from the top colleges in the world, from like QS rankings or something, and I looked at the kind of programs that they have to offer because I didn't really have any kind of I didn't have any idea what exactly happens in like these programs. So I looked at the courses. We have a few seniors that were studying at Georgia Tech, RWTH Aachen, and a lot of different universities. I got into touch with them, and I asked them what are they working on in these programs and like what does it entail. Like, is it just courses? Like BTech is more about courses and all, and the extra effort that you put in is different. It's not towards from the college. So a lot of these programs are not just about the courses you take, and a lot of them have thesis. So I took into account everything that I found out from seniors and other alumni from different colleges from LinkedIn, and then I made a list of colleges that offered the programs that I wanted. So later on, after that, one of my major concerns was affordability, because we know the pandemic has changed a lot about the way we think. So one of the major concerns was it has to be affordable. Otherwise, if it is an online SEM or something, then I would not be able to go there. So I need to justify that fees to myself and that kind of investment on myself, because we know that masters abroad is not a cheap affair anywhere you go.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
so after filtering through a lot of criterias like location and the kind of industries that the country has to offer, the future prospects, the kind of programs, the professors, again, professors were a huge factor. The amount of like how old the college is, the older the college is, the more alumni are out there in the actual industry, and they help you a lot when you move into the industry and start working. So that was a major concern. After all those factors that I took into consideration, I looked up online. Like there's a lot of pages that help you out. There's Yockit, there's Grad Cafe, there's LinkedIn is one of the biggest factors that helped me. So after that, I finally arrived at a list of like 15 colleges that I wanted to apply to.
Right. So you mentioned a lot about making sure that your financial aspect is worth it.
Right.
So are you also looking into like applying for scholarships? And if you were to like give a general trend as to where you are applying and like the state and the cost ratio along with it, because as I've heard, like the cost differs a lot as to which place
It
you are
does.
applying to.
It does. It
Yeah.
does.
So
So
give us an idea about that.
sure. So I ruled out US as a whole because anywhere in the US, you think there are a lot of people that tell you that scholarships are available, but there are actually not a lot of scholarships available in the US for like if you are an exceptional student, like you have like a 9.8 GPA from an IIT, and then you work at Goldman Sachs or something like that, and you want to get into finance or maybe an MBA, then that might be possible for you. But for students like from NIT, VIT, whatever, an average Indian student, it's not easy to get a scholarship anywhere in the US for that matter. So, and the average fee that I found in the US was at least about $40,000 to $50,000 for the whole course. So that wasn't something that looked very affordable to me at my stage in life. So I ruled out US and I only applied to one of the universities there, that is Georgia Tech, only because I loved the program there and I looked at a lot of professors, and we have one of our seniors there, and she told me about like how good the college is and everything about it, and I connected with a lot of people over there. So my focus shifted to Europe because of my interest in sustainable energy. So a lot of universities in Europe have started offering courses that are tailored to sustainable energy design. And like, for example, there's a university called TU Delft in Netherlands, and it has a SET program, which is Sustainable Energy Technology, and it's one of the best in the world. And so does a university in Sweden, which is KTH Sweden, the Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden. So a lot of these universities have tailored courses, and their fees is much lower when you compare it to, say, something like Georgia Tech, or even uh, you've got UT Austin or something like that, which is also on the lower side. UT Austin, I think, is about $18,000. So my concern with Europe was also on the fee side, and if I remember correctly, the maximum fees that I found in Europe was about 30 lakhs for 2 years, which is still lower than most of the average colleges in the US. And the living cost is also lower in Europe when you compare it to, say, New York or maybe one of the bigger cities in, for example, Atlanta. So, all things considered, Europe is an overall cheaper choice. The another university that I applied to was Melbourne University, which again has a master's in mechanical engineering program, and the professors have come out like from different places all over the world. But it is again like it is very costly to go there. It's about $90,000 the fee. But I applied because they have a few scholarships for Indian students, and what I later found out was that these scholarships are not program based. Like they're not three each for each program. They're three for each faculty. So for all mechanical engineering programs across the board, there are only three full scholarships available. So I managed to get some
Yeah.
amount of scholarship, but
Yeah.
it wasn't good enough. So there are scholarships, and for scholarships, I would say the best thing to do initially is if you get admitted to a program or if you want to apply to a program, you should email the people. Email. You should put an email to all these. There are like emails mentioned on the program's website for the program coordinator or someone who is basically going to give you information about the program. So I think for every university that you need to apply to, the best way to find out about scholarships and the kind of overall expenses that you'll be looking at, you should drop an email to these people and they'll get back to you whenever it's possible. And they do eventually get back to you. It might take like 1 or 2 weeks, but they'll get back to you with the right information. A lot of these colleges, for example, I applied to some colleges in the UK, and they don't really mention some bursaries that they have on their website, and it's not like you can't easily find it. So I emailed a lot of professors and like program coordinators, and they did get back to me with some sort of bursaries that you can apply for these bursaries by dropping in an email with your CV or whatever, a letter of motivation on these emails. So that is one way. The other is there are central scholarships. For example, there's a Commonwealth scholarship if you want to go to the UK. There's one more scholarship. I think it's called the Fine Do Dance Scholarship or something. It's a Netherlands scholarship that is only applicable for people who want to work into the energy sector. So I think it's more about like if once you start shortlisting colleges, you'll get an idea about what kind of scholarships will be available. So that is an iterative process. You have to search for it. There's no other way.
So all of these scholarships, do they require you to have an admission beforehand into a college and only
Okay.
then they will be applicable? Or you can apply to them and then if you get them, you can think about applying to the college?
So it works both ways. With scholarship, it does work both way. So I have applied for a lot of scholarships. There's even like some loan scholarships in India. There's a Tata endowment scholarship that allows you to take like a interest-free loan of about 10 lakh rupees if you get through all the stages. And then there's a KC Mahindra scholarship. So these scholarships don't really require to have an admission uh, to like sit for them or apply for them. But when you do have the interview, the final interview for these scholarships, you need to tell them which is the final university that you really want to go to, so that they get an idea about the ranking of this college and whatever program you're pursuing. So that happens for a lot of scholarships, but for college specific scholarships, for example, if you're applied to say the University of Manchester and you want to apply to their scholarship, that usually requires you to hold an offer or a conditional or an unconditional offer to apply for that scholarship. So that is how it works for college specific scholarships. But if an organization is looking at, like, if you're applying for a central or an organization scholarship, then that doesn't really require you to have an admit.
Right. So, okay, we have talked a lot about scholarships and the financial part of it. Then again comes the admission part of it because getting admitted is a big deal and it requires
Absolutely.
a big, huge process that you have to go through. So, how would you say that, like, you start off with which thing you start off?
So for me, it was again, like I told you, for me, it was more about the program and the kind of exposure I'll get at the place. So I started looking at programs at different university websites. I think the first website I ever visited for this was the QS website to look at the rankings for mechanical engineering and like engineering in general. And then I shortlisted like the top 100 colleges only. So that was my thought process at the time, that if I want to go, I want to go for the top 100 colleges. Otherwise, I would rather just have an MTech in India. So
Right?
I shortlisted those colleges. Moving on, I told you about filtering colleges like right up to the mark, and then all of these colleges like across the board. If you're applying like Europe and US, they have different kinds of things that you need to put into your applications. So a lot of colleges in Europe don't require a GRE score, and
Yeah.
uh, and a lot of them don't even require a letter of motivation. In fact, they just want your CV and a few other details like your certificates and everything and your transcripts. So that happens, and then you have to look at the kind of documents you want, obviously. And then if you know, for example, if somebody just wants to apply to Europe, you don't really need to take the GRE, because that's like a 15,000 rupee test, and you won't end up like using it anyway for the next 2 years. So I think that way, that was one of the concerns, like GRE and everything. I took the GRE, but I didn't really end up using it.
Okay. So,
So
may I ask what was your score in GRE?
I I had a 3 to 4, I think, which is
Okay.
like it's a decent score. It's not too good, but I didn't eventually end up using it. So that was one thing. Um, so sorry, what were you talking about again?
the process of it?
Right.
GRE, TOEFL,
Oh yeah.
SOPs.
So I started shortlisting colleges in March. I filtered all my colleges by I think April end or May, May third, May second week or something like that. And then I looked at like whatever I had to take. For example, GRE. I took the IELTS instead of the TOEFL, and then after I got like started on GRE and IELTS preparation or whatever I wanted to do for the next 2 months. I also started looking at my letter of motivation and letter of recommendations from my professor. So I jotted down a few names of professors that I had connected with over the last few years. I started calling them and asking them if they would be interested in giving me a letter of recommendation. So for a lot of colleges, for most of the professors in mechanical engineering department, I'd say that they're very friendly. They won't say no. But for some professors, you need to like persuade them into giving you a letter of motivation. They'll be like, no, we've only taught you one course. But to be honest, it doesn't matter how many courses they've taught you. It only matters about that the course they taught you is directly related to what you want to do. So I got a letter of motivation from my heat and mass transfer professor, my turbo machines professor, and my design of transmission elements professor. So all of these three subjects were directly related to what I wanted to do. And when they talk about like your proficiency in these subjects, that really shows something to the college. Then when I talk about your letter of motivation, you really it doesn't have to be about it doesn't necessarily have to be about like what you've achieved in your life. It has to be about how you got to this decision of pursuing something in the college and what are you going to contribute to the college. It's not about like I've been an excellent student and I've gotten this and that and everything. You need to you need to explain to them how everything that you've done throughout your undergraduate or your school life has led you to being making this decision of applying to this particular college in this particular program, and how you're going to like what are your future plans. That is something that a lot of these universities focus on. They want to know like what do you want to do after that, after the program ends. So after all of that, I took my GRE TOEFL. You have to send those scores to the universities, and then you start the application process by finishing up everything, like getting your transcripts ready, getting your. I think you for some universities you also need your 10th and 12th results, your passport. So after all of that, you apply, and then you end up paying the application fee.
Right. Um, Tell us about the fact that in a lot of countries you have certain restrictions as to the number of and the type of jobs that you can take while studying, and pretty much after studying also there is an amount of term, I
Yeah.
guess, in which you can work or not work. Was that also a consideration while you were like choosing the colleges that you were going to apply at?
So it is a factor, but it wasn't like a major factor for me, to be honest. When I looked at a lot of these colleges, yeah, there is like, for example, in Germany, I am sure that you can work for like, it's either 20 hours a week as a student. And but once you graduate, you have a residence permit, and if you show them like you can survive in Germany, if you have a part-time job, even you can look for a full-time job for about a year and a half. I think I'm not sure of the exact duration, but it's just like the OPT thing in the US. So I that wasn't a major concern, but yeah, it is a factor when you look at like your final choices. So I'm not really aware of it, but yeah, it is something that I factored in.
Okay, so you said that you also applied to certain Indian colleges or and IIMs as well.
Yeah, so I took the cat
Yeah.
because I want to see at that point. It wasn't sure like where the world was going to go, so I wanted a backup for something that I like. At the time, I didn't. I was not placed. I did not have any admits from any university, and because we didn't know like where COVID was going to go, I ended up applying for the cat examination, and somehow I got through it. And then I applied for a colleges, and I took the interview for one of them, and yeah, that was something that happened later.
So, like, I feel that like applying for MS and simultaneously applying for IIM, uh, it's a very you could say two different paths that you were
Oh,
going on.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It wasn't a serious decision. I just wanted a backup in case that nothing kind of worked out. Because at the time, everybody was kind of like paranoid, to be honest. Like everybody
Yeah.
did had no idea where this was going to go. So in fact, a lot of people in my batch ended up doing everything that was possible at the time. So it
Okay.
was more of a backup
Yeah.
choice, not exactly my. It wasn't something that I really wanted to do in life.
So, tell us your opinion about like a lot of students who plan to work for a few years in India after their BTech and then go for masters. I mean, there are certain reasons for it, like getting a proper amount of work experience, getting
That's right.
financially independent, and all of that. So, what do you think about that? And like, did you were you certain that you wanted to go after do masters like just after BTech, or did you also think about something like getting a job, doing something, and then going?
So yeah, that does make sense exactly. So me myself, I have actually not narrowed down my choices. I have not decided what I want to do as of now. So that makes sense for two things. Firstly, yeah, you mentioned the finances. The second thing is I feel that a lot of people do know that their profile is not up to the mark to make it maybe to the top 15 colleges in the world. But once you start working and the kind of projects that you work on, that will really add up to your profile. And that is something that a lot of colleges really really appreciate. They want to know that you've worked with this. And for a lot of people, I know a lot of people personally who think that who end up doing jobs because they want to find out if this is something that they really want to do. Because once you start with your masters, there's really no turning back. That's kind of your field. You can't move away from it. But after BTech, you kind of have a choice. You can explore a little maybe with finance or maybe software jobs or core jobs. So I think that's also another reason that a lot of people end up working for like 2 years before applying.
Right. So, as you mentioned about the profile, is there something like current students, like we all know, like lockdown has been for a long time
Absolutely.
and it might just stay for another year or two. It's the situation. So, do you think that our students can do something at the moment, what they can do, and how they can build their profile in such a way that next time, whenever they have to apply for MS, as a lot of our audience might be thinking of, or maybe just going for a simple core job, it could help them a lot.
Sure. So my take on that is because we actually kind of got lucky, to be honest. From March onwards, we had nothing to do for 3 months, and if you really want to work, that you have all the free time on your hands. When you're in college, you have to take care of a million things that really have nothing to do with what you want to do in life. You have to take care of your food, your clothes, whatever. So because people have this free time, you can actually put it on your profile, start studying, pursue a few projects. There are a lot of online courses that have come up now that are really really good, and I myself have pursued a lot of courses on Coursera, and they really open your eyes to about like the opportunities that are out there. Then I would say if you want to really understand, talk to people on LinkedIn. That's the thing that I did the most. I connected with a lot of people on LinkedIn in different industries, and I talked to them about like what college life is really like what do they study, what kind of projects are they working on, and that really puts things into perspective. So if you and these things you can even add to your letter of motivation, like if you really tell them about a methodical approach that you've taken to even finalizing the program, that also adds up to to telling them that you are a guy who actually puts thoughts into your work, into whatever you want to do. When I talk about profile, I think yeah, Coursera is one thing that you can definitely pursue. The other thing is projects. Most of your peers are free. Get around with them, talk to them, and decide on any subject. Read a few research papers, and then maybe you can have an idea about a small project or something that you can pursue. So that would really add to your profile, I would say, because a project that you start by yourself really shows them like motivation and initiative on your part.
Right. So, coming on to our last question, what do you think about the plan B? I mean, you mentioned that you applied for IIMs as well.
Right.
So, like, if you go for masters and you get to complete your masters, whichever place you want to do, then do you keep a plan B for whichever country you are and like going to another country if like the situations are not
Right.
that good?
Yeah,
Have you like thought that far, or is it just like
no, I
beginning
have
stages at the
thought
moment?
about it, but it doesn't seem like it's a reasonable plan, to be honest. Like you can't, people who, so for example, if I go to a country like say UK, and I end up my study like in UK, I finish my program and I don't get a job there. Any place else that I want to go has a million other master students waiting for jobs. So it doesn't really seem like a reasonable plan to me to, shift countries or something like that. A plan B would be come back to India and work here. So I would say that's the most reasonable plan that you can think of, because a plan B cannot be more ambitious than a plan A. So if you don't end up getting a job in, say, the UK, and you finished your masters in the UK, I would say that thinking about a job in, say, USA would be too ambitious, to be honest.
Right. So I think that concludes the questions on our part. Is there some advice that you'd like to give to our juniors and future MS aspirants?
Sure. My best advice would be to start as soon as possible. Look at what you really want to do, and if you're motivated enough, I'm sure that you can, put it on paper. And I'm sure that you guys have all of our numbers, whoever's applying for masters abroad, and you can always connect with your seniors to understand, what really goes on. That would be pretty much it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, like, for coming here, and
Thank you for having me.
have a nice day.